cook. We went to Best Buy. I like to cook in the 10 to 12 to 14 pound range. This one here, my calibrated hands, this is about a 13 pound brisket. The two basic pieces, the flat, this is literally, it's the flat end. The other end is called the point. We're going to take the point and we're going to make burnt ends from that. So when you hear me talk about burnt ends, you'll see where I did that. Now, some people think burnt ends are actually the burnt ends of the brisket. Yeah, okay, technically that can be, but in Kansas City,
they didn't have any more of this one. I'm sorry.
Oh, the brisket.
We do have some cocktails too.
Oh yeah?
If you're a Mexican beer drinker, good and regular chipatis if you like.
Right on.
In order to prepare the brisket, I'm a minimalist. I don't like to do a lot of trimming. I figure with beef, I'm basically going to cut it just like I did with the ribs. I'm going to cut it for visual. On this, when I'm going to cut this big piece of fat on this side, it's kind of hard to hold it up. This part right here, it's just a big chunk of fat.
Is this brisket aged?
Call Tony.
Okay. Okay.
Has this brisket been aging? This brisket is not. In competitions, I have a special refrigerator, and I will age my contest briskets just like the finest steakhouses will age their meat. I will age my briskets for 50 days. What it does, it enhances the meat taste. I'll tell you, this actually has been aging in the store. That's why I get rid of that. That's just solid fat. It's not going to cook up well. The other thing I'm going to trim, this gray edge here, I will always trim that off.
All right.
See the difference? I've exposed fresh meat. It's going to just be a better product. I'll do basic trimming, but that's about all I'm going to do. I'm not going to try to trim the fat to thinner. I'm not going to over trim it. I can do all the trimming I need to after it's cooked. Two ways to prepare that. If you go look at the videos, I go at length how to do that. I did two briskets. I did one just like I did with competition. I inject the brisket. The injection is, if you remember what I said about ribs, judges get 1 or 2 bites. So injection allows you to get more intense flavor. So on your plate, I hope to give you 1 injected brisket, 1 non-injected brisket, and you can see if it makes a difference. On this, I like to use a rub beef. I'll use a rub with salt. Head Country makes a really good rub. Cook Shack has a brisket rub. They're both actually in Ponca City, about 100 yards apart. But basically, the idea is find a rub. There's some real good ones out here in front of the store, but the Made in Oklahoma concept. Head Country, Paul Shoddy has won tons of grand champions. They've really got a great product out there. They've got another one that's called a premium marinade. It's their version of Worcestershire sauce. I'll put a light coat on there. I'll add the rub to it. I'll let it sit. In this case, I like to for beef for about 4 hours. Then I'll put it in a smoker. On this, last night I put it on the smoker at 225. The ones I cooked that you'll see here in just a minute, I prepared them and they cooked almost 18 hours. To get ready for burn in so that you'll know what I'm doing, there's a fat vein.
Russ, do you ever take them out after a while and wrap them in foil?
I never, ever use foil. I do not use foil. Once you've had it, you'll have tonight, never touch foil.
Well, we do it just because the smoke's already in it, and we just let it boil in its own juices.
The certainly is a method that works, and there's nothing wrong with it. The way I've been cooking brisket since the 60s, I'm looking for what we call the meteorite effect. If you put foil around ribs, chicken, turkey, anything like that, it's going to soften what we call the bark. And that's okay. I like a more crunchy bark I like that toothsome feel to it. And if you use foil, it will soften the bark. Both work. It just depends on the effect you need to. If you start with a choice brisket, I don't think you have to use foil. If you've got a good cooker that has, it doesn't have a lot of air loss and is a fairly stable smoker, you'll definitely not have to use foil. I see it as a crutch, but it's a crutch that gets you to where you need to be. Questions, basic questions on briskets before I show you how to cut it up. You may have some questions. We shot some video yesterday of me actually preparing the rubs and all of that. On briskets, I go heavy on the rub, like to the point where you can't see the meat. I smoke it fat side down.
Is this aged meat?
I answered that.
Oh, I missed it.
50 days.
Okay, I'll answer that in just a second. So everybody always asks, this juice in here, how many do you think that's blood? It's not blood.
It's water.
It's been aging in the cryovac. This is the liquid inside the meat that evaporates. This is just like they do in the steakhouses. When you hear dry aged meat or wet aged meat, that's the result. So when you see a cryovac that has a lot of liquid in it like that, as long as it's not open and exposed to the air, it's very safe. So don't let that hesitate in buying that. The second question was, do I cook it fat side up or fat side down?
Fat side down.
If you buy a choice brisket, it's not going to matter which way. The theory that fat renders down through the brisket, I think is false, because at a certain point, protein in the brisket is seizing up and fat can't penetrate. It'll actually roll off the edge. What makes for a moist brisket is a choice or prime brisket. You get a select, it's just not going to be as good. It's that intramuscular fat that makes it moist. Can someone help me? I need to watch that cook meat.
Huh?
Yes.
Do you age it in the plastic or dry?
If you want to try to age, it's difficult at home if you use a refrigerator that you open and close all the time. True aging safety, you want to make sure the refrigerator stays 38 degrees or lower. So on my contest fridge, the family knows when I've got meat aging, we don't get in and out of it. I leave it in the cryovac. You never want to let meat get exposed to air. If you do, you won't be able to age it because the air that's in there will actually start to affect the meat. If you buy it fresh, it's in the plastic, you put it in the back, and you can do it with steaks. If you buy a whole prime rib that you're going to cut up into steaks, let it age a week and it'll have it.
Incredible.
Leave it in the plastic. Write the date. There'll be a sell-by date. Just circle that so you know when to buy it. No, I buy them in the cryovac. The question was, do I vacuum seal them? It's pretty hard to find bags that are going to hold a 10, 12, 14-pound brisket. I leave it in the cryovac so I don't need to vacuum seal it, because you want to minimize that exposure to fresh air. Yeah. More brisket questions. Let me clean up just a bit.
What's the rule of thumb? How long per pound?
Do what?
How long per pound?
The problem with trying to barbecue, you can't cook meat by the pound. So you've got to cook on temperature and feel. So I can tell you an hour and a quarter per pound on my smoker is not going to work on yours. You want to cook it to a doneness temperature. So for this, I cooked it to 197 degrees. On a thermometer that I know measures 197 degrees. Again, test your thermometer. When I insert it, I'm also feeling for tenderness. Brisket, if you don't know what brisket is, it's the chest muscle. The reason it's the most difficult piece to cook is all of the collagen in those fibers have to break down. That's why it's difficult to cook. Long, slow method will allow that collagen to break down, and once it's broken down, it just gives it that magic tenderness effect. were talking about the meteorite effect. That's a cooked brisket. It's never been in foil, and it's going to have a little bit of a soft bark because it's been sitting in there. It's actually too hot to touch. It's been cooked for 4 hours now. To get a burn in, so I took, this is the same as what you saw me hold up. This is the flat, this is the point. And I trimmed it out, I got rid of that little shelf piece. What I will do,
Take a scimitar.
just that quick, I cut the fat off, and now I've got the flat. To create burnt ends, this is the point. You'll see the fat part. Get rid of that fat, and it's just congealed. It'll just fall apart. There's a lot of the juices, but that's why I don't have to trim it off in advance. I just cut it off, and I can get rid of it.
Oh, I would have eaten that.
To create burnt ends, I'm cutting about 1-inch strips. And then I'm going to take a strip and cut 1-inch cubes. So the flat and the point, the flat is the least fatty, the point is the most fatty. We typically say it's like 50-50, 50% meat, 50% fat. That's why that ooh was there. This is the point. It's really, once I've cubed it up, this is what a burn-in is. I'm going to take that, add a little seasoning. I'm going to cube all of this up. I'm going to apply a little of the same rub that I did. Put it back. I'll put it in an aluminum pan. I won't cover it, but I'll just put it back in the pan, and I'm going to cook it for another 2 hours. The idea is there's still fat in this part, and you want that to render out. Now, I've got both dry and wet burn-ins. My wife likes the dry burn-ins without sauce on them. Traditional burn-ins is I'll put maybe a 1/4 cup of sauce on those, toss them, and then let them caramelize. So, are we going to put burn-ins and a slice of each in a boat, whatever? Let's serve some burn-ins while I'm slicing up the brisket. So I'll show you what the burn-ins look like after they're done, if the guys look at me any. So this is the barbecue craft, we call it. So this is the panful. This was two sets of points, and it's just bite-sized pieces. It's brisket. You'll find the dark part is the bark. That's where a lot of the flavor is. You'll be able to tell if you get a piece that's, I'll try to put one that's dry and one that's wet, and just feel the difference. In Kansas City, you buy these like a bag of popcorn, and restaurants will sell them until they sell out. One of each, and he will bring those around.
You smoke them for another 2 hours.
Smoke them for another 2 hours. The reason is the point has all that fat in it, and I want a little bit more of that to render out. So it can actually cook longer, and it's okay. Now, another question is, how do I know where to cut? So everybody here, of course, knows that with beef, you want to cut perpendicular, not parallel, to the meat strength, right? So when you look at the meat, cut this so you can see it. The meat is running this way. If I cut it like this, I'm going to get long, stringy pieces, and it's going to be chewy. You always want to cut cross grain. A technique, and I did this on purpose so you can see. This brisket has a point that naturally looks like 90-degree angle. That's because I trimmed it that way. I knew where the angle of the grain was before I put the rib on. I cut that so that I would know later where to slice it. I also know this is the one I did not inject. Cut about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch slices, and you can take the first slice or two and just feel. If it's tender, like this is tender, I'll keep cutting that slice. If it's a little tough, and it kind of has that rubber band effect, cut it thinner. If it's really tender, cut it thicker. Cut it thin to win, cut it thick to stay together. It's just a competition secret. So adjust for what you're cooked. I know that for my smoker around 197, it's going to be a good temperature. So we'll try to give you a slice of both the injected and non-injected.
Russ, how long have you cooked that?
This was actually in the smoker just at 18 hours, so about 1 hour and 1/4 per pound at 230 degrees. Brisket questions, anybody? No?
You guys good?
I'm good.
No, you just want to taste it so you can say, what does it taste like?
So, do you, when you're smoking it, do you just let it sit there fat side down the whole time, or?
Yeah, the most I'll do, because you're sitting fat side down, it will actually start rendering and kind of soak into the grate. About 1/4 of the way through, I'll move it a little bit, and the other halfway, I'll move it a little,
Okay.
and then it's okay. But if you're looking, you're not cooking, as a barbecue term, what
Yeah.
that means is when you open the door to look at it, you're letting all the heat out. I let it go. I didn't even look at it until about 14 hours, because I knew this was a 14-pound brisket. I know at around that point is when I need to start checking.
Okay.
When you try the brisket, I'm going to try to help you out here. The brisket, and it dries out real fast, so I'll try to get it to you. If it's got a straight cut on it, it's not injected. When it's cut on a bias, it'll be the injected, so you can try. That's the non-cut. Who was the lady that groaned when I threw the fat away?
You run over here.
Who was it? When I trim it off this one, I'll save you a big checkup.
Hey, Lori. Russ, when you inject it, when you inject it,
Good question. Did everybody get a burn in?
Yeah.
When you did, raise your hand.
There's more burn ends?
Yeah. The question was, what do I inject with? You can inject with anything, Worcestershire, beef juice, things like that. At the competition level, David, who's up in Chandler, he sells his product. It's a brisket injection, and the link will be on the article in the paper. He also has a dry product called Prime Dust. It's a super rich beef mixture. So I basically take this and mix it up to the percentages that it says, which is like 2 cups of water, a cup of each. And This is what it comes out looking like. So it's a really thick gravy.
Who makes this?
David is Butcher Barbecue. Yeah.
Is that on your website?
It'll be in the article. There'll be a link to it. It's butcherbbq.com. If you want to, if you tried the injection and you liked it, this is exactly what I use. The other thing, and he does sell them. If you use an injector, you can actually buy these because we live in a farm state. You can buy them in any place that sells animal supplies. Get one that has a small needle. You don't want a big, thick needle because you're going to pierce the meat you want. This is a very, very tiny needle.
How many times do you make? Where do you buy it?
I'll actually put, it'll make that much. We'll do 2 briskets, so about a cup and a half of it to go into it. And you'll see on the online video, it'll show you how I injected it. Brisket question.
Did you use his rub too, Russ?
Yes, I did. I use Pet Country and Butcher's beef on this. I really like Pet Country. Cook Chefs, I use it a lot. The difference, Pet Country has some MSG in it. Cook Chefs does not have MSG in it. I actually like to use MSG because it does wake up your taste buds, but if you're averse to MSG, there's some good products out there.
So does this have Head Country on it?
This has Pet Country on it.
Do you make your own rubs for competition, or?
No, I have before. You ready? Here we go. You want it?
Oh.
You want it?
No, actually, I just want to look at it. I thought maybe you could put that in some beans.
Oh, yes, you could.
No, I would not put this in beans. What I do is I put the beans below the brisket while it's cooking, and the brisket fat drips into it. But these pieces here, the leftover brisket, we'll cube up and add to the beans the next time we cook.
I was like, just cut me a piece right there. That just looks Come on. Right there. Oh, that looks good.
There's some meat and fat on that.
Oh, that's like the best.
It really is good. I feel good because that part way.
It's good to cook with.
So this is the injected one.
I was thinking about the stuff you use.
Oh my God.
Now, this is what it's like. Yeah, he'll put the beans, he has a big cast iron pot that he has beans in, and he'll put it under the oven and big strip into it. Then we'll take some of that leftover brisket and shred it and mix it into beans, and it's wonderful.
So you have
He uses molasses in his beans, yeah.
oh, molasses and beans is good.
Oh yeah, it's good.
Does he have a smokehouse or just a smoker?
He's got a smoker. No, I think you can smoke on grills. You just can't get the drippings to drip in there, though. You know.
Well, smoking has to be indirect.
Exactly.
It is. Yeah. Now get the right number of cycles around the stage.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Which one?
I have to take that one right there. That's a good idea. Exactly.
Everybody asked about the smoke ring, right? So that's how you judge good barbecue. You judge good barbecue with your taste buds. Because I can actually chemically create the smoke ring. The same way you can cure pork to make it pink, I can make this one pink with the same curing. But for those of you who like the smoke ring, you'll see on this end, it's red on the end and red on the side.
Okay, and if y'all
That's
need
the
another
reason I print close on the beef side. I get that pigmentation in the smoke ring.
Paul, you about ready to get out? You already heard all this.
Yeah, I've heard it.
He's the best one.
Any brisket question?
You're Yeah, yeah.